Morgan Scalley loves what he's seeing out of one of Utah's most important position groups entering the 2026 season.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm JT Wistrcill, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. Excited to be joined by Alma Bean of KSL Sports on today's show to talk about some crazy recruiting takes. Also, Utah, West Virginia, we have the date of the game. It's Black Friday. How should we feel about that? Utah on Black Friday another year in a row. And we're about to talk about the cornerback room in one moment, but want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and you get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Alma, spring ball is underway for the Utah Utes, and there's a lot of positions that we have a microscope on. Hey, how's the offensive line going to do, right? Obviously, always attention on the quarterbacks, Dampier and Burt Ficklin, even though there's no drama of who the starting quarterback or backup is for the first time in a very long time in Salt Lake City. But another position that's very important for this Utah football team is the cornerback room, especially with what Utah and Morgan Scalley, when he's been the defensive coordinator, now Colton Swan, ask that group to do so often on an island defending while Utah blitzes the farm. Utah, of course, lost 2 of their 3 starters from a season ago. So we wanted to see how that cornerback room would do. And Scalley said kind of early on he wanted to see more from them. But in a recent media availability, he said that he's really pleased with what he's seen out of the growth and development of those guys, specifically highlighting guys like Elijah Reed, Scooby Davis, Caldwell, and Bobo Chenault too. Love that this group is making progress because they're incredibly important all about to Utah's 2026 success.
Yeah, and again, like a lot of these corners, especially with how Utah's defense is and Scalley just having those reins for so long, we know exactly what we're going to be getting with this defense. And a lot of these guys that are going to be coming in or taking a step up in this group, we know that there is a high standard when it comes to Utah's defense. And the guy that I'm really excited for is Bobo Chenault. Transferring in from USF, me being from Florida, like USF is a program that I pay attention to in my spare time. And just knowing how he was able to perform in some of the opponents that he had during his time at USF. I mean, shoot, this past year, he played 3 top 25 teams in a row, going from Boise State when they were 25, Florida when they were 13, and then Miami when they were 5th. And everybody just wanted to focus in on USF football because, to be completely honest, like nobody was paying attention to USF until they started knocking down some of these larger programs. So when you had Chenault, who wasn't necessarily the guy on campus, having some great performances. I mean, he had interceptions against both Florida and Miami, some teams that either do not have a single turnover or they will pile them up in a single game. He was the guy that was on the forefront making sure that this USF team actually was in competition with these guys. So Utah got a really great addition with him in that transfer portal. And also Scooby Davis. He's going to be a leader for that cornerback room. I'm excited to see if he can bring back any, if all, of the performances he had last year. I mean, shoot, 1 of 12 FBS players that have multiple pick sixes last year.
Yeah.
As a Utah fan, you should want that again. So him essentially being the main guy in that room, I'm really excited to see what this defense can bring.
I'm really excited too. Can we also, I love preseason rankings. It's always something fun to talk about, but you're right. Florida was ranked 13th. Like, I forgot about that. That's insane to think about with how they ended the year. And not taking anything away from Chenault, especially that's impressive that as a guy at the G5 level, even last year, he showed that he could do against P4. That's what you love to see. It's just also hilarious when we think back to like, oh my gosh, Florida was a top 15 team and they already fired their coach and all the things that happened there. It's just funny how the offseason could wear on. What were you going to add?
And even if you want to discredit Florida, I mean, shoot, he got an interception against the runner-up in the national championship. So
exactly,
wear that badge of honor.
Yeah, 1,000, as he absolutely should. But yeah, love that this group is performing well. Blake Cotton, who was the UC Davis transfer last year for Utah, was really good for them on the outside. Smith Snowden in the slot. I think, what was it, the Cincinnati game? He got burned for 180-yard touchdown. Like, overall, Utah's cornerback room was outstanding last season. And part of the reason Utah's defense was so good was those guys' ability to hold up in one-on-one coverage. Remember, even though Utah finished with the top 3 defense, what was the issue down the stretch? It was the run defense. It was not the pass defense. And it's even more impressive because what Utah was asking their cornerbacks to do, as we mentioned, they're it's usually only like a Teo Johnson back there at safety, and they like to blitz. Like Jackson Benny, he's coming up to blitz. They're bringing the farm, and they ask those guys a lot of them. So you lose Snowden, who was also really good as mentioned. You lose Cotton, so it's Elijah Scooby Davis. You got one proven starter back, but you need the other guys to step up. So I love hearing that. You just did a great job of highlighting what Chenault's been able to do. We knew Scooby Davis was going to be a guy who's be really good. He's his team's best corner for my money. But I love that a guy like Caldwell's showing a lot of signs. That was a guy I was really excited about. He spent the 2024 season at Gardner City Community College and then came last year and was a contributor on special teams and defense. Overall, 9 tackles for him. But hey, I think he needed a year of coaching and development to get up to speed what Utah wants to do with their cornerbacks. Sharif Shaw is one of the best in the business. He's 6'3", 190 pounds. I think Caldwell's got a chance to be a really phenomenal starter for this Utah defense this upcoming season. I love the physical profile that he has. This seems to me like a classic guy. Just needed a year under his belt, Alma, and he could be one of, if not the best cornerback in this room. Even with how good Elijah Scooby Davis is, sometimes you see a guy make that massive a leap. I think there's a chance we could see that from Caldwell.
Yeah, and the thing is, he played 12 games last year, but he only contributed on the defensive side, I want to say 4 games. And in those 4 games, he had 9 tackles, 7 of them being solo. So you know that he can handle his own. When he's asked to do that man coverage, it's not going to be a problem for Rock. He's going to be able to hold it down. And he even got an interception in those very few snaps that he was able to get on the defensive end. So even though it's not the best performance out there, but Cal Poly, he had 3 solo tackles in that game. Even though it's not the best competition to really evaluate his talent, you were able to see a glimpse of what he's capable of doing. So now getting an elevated role this year, I think that a lot of people are going to say he's underrated, or, we need to actually game plan for this guy because he's shown us that he can do it. It's just a matter of letting loose.
Letting loose, and I'm hoping that's what Elijah Reed can do with Utah too this year. That's a former Akron transfer, right? And I know the Zips have often been one of the bottom dwellers of college football, but they were actually better last year. They won 5 games last year, if not for some other things. They might have had a chance to even go bowling, although there was some, I think, NCAA violation stuff there. But Reed had a really good season. Actually was at Kentucky before transferring to Akron, got to play, and now is coming over to Utah and gets more opportunities of growth there too. So really like what this Utah cornerback room has the chance to be, right? When you're talking about Elijah Reed, Chenault, Caldwell, feels like there's a lot of guys in here. I'm very curious to see who will be that slot corner because there's not all these guys we've talked about so far. For the most part, they've all been on the taller end. Even Elijah Reed is 6'3". So Smith Snowden was a little smaller than that. So does one of these guys, even though they're a little bigger, do they have the speed and the quickness enough to handle those slot receivers? That remains to be seen. As we stand here right now today, I will go with Elijah Reed as one of the starting corners. I'll go Caldwell, and I'll go Chenault. And I know that's interesting combination because you mentioned height-wise, it doesn't all add up completely to your normal, like, nickelback, basically. But I do feel like this Utah defense is going to put the best cornerbacks out there, Alma. What combination of guys do you think that will be?
I'm actually going to have to agree with you. I really liked what I saw from Reed, especially when I was looking at some of his highlights. I found that his game against Wyoming last season, he was all over the field. He was somebody that Wyoming didn't want to throw towards, but he ended up finishing the game with 4 total tackles, 2 solo, 2 assisted. And then even when he was playing against Miami, Ohio, which in my opinion was probably his best game of the season, he had 6 total tackles, with 5 of them being solo tackles. He had an interception that game. He, throughout the season, ended up getting a sack. He ended up getting another interception and a forced fumble all in the process. And we've already mentioned that Akron is not the highlight of college football. So the fact that he's able to get those personal accolades in there, it made his resume a lot better going into that transfer portal. So I'm really curious how he's going to go from Group 5 to Power 4. And I think that he'll be able to make that transition just fine. Caldwell, we've already went into it. He has proven in the very small reps that we have seen that he has the ability to pop off. We just need to see if they'll loosen the reins so then he can go from sideline to sideline. And then Chenault, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's going to adjust to the altitude here in Utah, and just having a coach like Scalley. It's going to elevate his game so much, and Utah fans should be excited, even though they're coming from these Group 5 schools. Just pay attention, see what happens, and you will fall in love with these guys very quickly.
You will, and I'm excited to see this group take the field. It's going to be a ton of fun. Just like can't wait for the season to get underway. We have a game day actually scheduled. Utah, West Virginia. They moved it to Black Friday. Utah on Black Friday again, right after Thanksgiving. How should we feel about that? I actually love it. I'm going to tell you why in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. Here's what I like about it. You can bet just $5 and you get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. I cannot wait to get the NBA playoffs underway. It's going to be an absolute blast, and FanDuel is the place to head forward. I think the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic are in for a deep run. Can the OKC Thunder repeat? Boston Celtics playing their best ball at the right time? Or are the New York Knicks going to find a way to finally break through and make the finals? However you're feeling, you head to FanDuel Sportsbook today. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game right now. Thank you guys again for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. Want to remind you all the Locked On Utes Everydayer Club is available. You can head over to lockedonutes.supercast.com to join, get access to a Discord chat with myself, other Utah fans, and you have an opportunity to get an audio ad-free version of this podcast. So head over to lockedonutes.supercast.com Everydayer Club. We'll be doing Q&As in there as well during the offseason. So that's the place to be. Head over today and join the Everydayer Club. Alma, Utah, West Virginia. We always knew it was going to be the last game of the regular season. Woo! Not BYU. Forgive my diminished excitement over a game that has zero rivalry impact on rivalry weekend. And I love the Mountaineers. I think it's a fun, like having them in the Big 12. It was fun to get to play them last year. It wasn't a very competitive game, but rivalry weekend to me is reserved for a semblance of a rivalry. And we just don't have that with West Virginia in any capacity. So I don't love that it's that weekend, but that's not what we're talking about here. We are instead talking about the fact that this is a scheduled game for the Utah Utes that is going to be played on Friday, November 27th. They have not set the time for it yet, but I actually really like that Utah is going to play on Black Friday, right? This is the type of situation where, hey, we get Thanksgiving and then we get the game on Friday. It's a day earlier for a Utah football game. It's an opportunity for Utah football to get more of a singular spotlight on them. This will not be one of the top games of the day, in my opinion, and that's not because I don't think Utah will be very good. I have a lot of questions about West Virginia heading into year two with Rich Rod in a year where they beat a couple of P4 teams, but they were 13th in the conference. So I think it's fair to wonder how good can this West Virginia team actually be in 2026. So I like it being a day earlier. I'm okay that we don't get buried under the Ohio State, the Auburns, and Alabamas, because Utah BYU, in my opinion, is capable of drawing views on rivalry weekend. Utah West Virginia is not. So I'd much rather than play on Black Friday. What do you make of this, Alma?
So I'm on the same boat with you. Like, I don't really have much of an opinion with West Virginia, but with it being rivalry weekend, my opinion is that's the wrong team to play. We all know that it should be BYU 100%. And we've seen the numbers from ESPN last year. There were so many people that were tuning in to that rivalry game, and everybody questioned, if it's so electric, why wasn't this put on rivalry weekend? So it's just going to be that constant question whether or not the NCAA will fully recognize that it is a heated rivalry and the country needs to recognize it. But going into the Big 12, still being, I guess, the new face in there, you got to pay your dues. So you get your final game against West Virginia, and then you just hope a couple of years down the road that they'll recognize that BYU should be in that slot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hopefully eventually we can see BYU, like you mentioned, at this time point, because it's one of those things, and I've talked about this before on the show. You would not put Utah. The one rivalry to me you have to avoid at all costs rivalry weekend is the one called the game. It's Ohio State, Michigan. Like, you do not play when those two teams are playing. But after that game is played, like, yes, like South Carolina and Clemson play, and I mean Alabama and Auburn play as much, but there's just nothing the same level as the game. And honestly, with the timing of Utah BYU, I would just say put it the 10:30 slot. Make it the last game of the day. Some people might go, the East Coast viewership's asleep. Yes, some of them would be. But if it's a Utah BYU game with Big 12 title implications, I think people are going to be staying up for that one. So that's where I just think they should do it. But anyway, going back to the West Virginia thing for here and this game too. It'll be interesting to see what's on the line for Utah. I mean, as I mentioned, Alma, I'm not a huge believer in this West Virginia team coming into 2026. Can they be better than 13? Sure, they could be a top 10 team. I don't see them being a top 8 team in this conference, though. I think it's still too much new. I think there's still too much they're growing and learning from. And I think Rich Rod's team will continue to take a step forward and get better. I think they won 4 games this past season, but they also lost to Ohio. And let's not forget when Utah saw the Mountaineers, how that one went. 48-14. Yes, we do not have the same level of an offensive line, but it was not good for the Mountaineers. So I'm not expecting this to be a crazy game. Honestly, I wouldn't be at all surprised at all if they just put it at noon, like last year's Utah-Kansas game was, because there just wasn't a lot of national intrigue with that game. I don't expect it to be a lot of national intrigue with this one. I'm guessing we'll see a noon time slot, maybe a 3:30. What time do you think this one ends up at?
I think it would be a noon just because
Yeah.
why not? That's just seems like a perfect spot for it to go, especially on Black Friday. And there's probably not going to be too many implications with it. Get it out of the way.
It's a great excuse and reason, by the way, for everyone as well who doesn't want to go out and go shopping. You can be like, well, my team plays, the Utes play, so I can stay at home, right? And I'm so like, this is something I love doing is after a big Thanksgiving Thursday, I like sitting back and watching college football on a Friday. And I know some people will be like, well, we have Saturday too. Yeah, I love watching both. How about we tailgate on the Friday and then we could also watch the great games on a Saturday, right? So that's why I'm good with this being on a Friday. I do not want every college football game on a Friday. And I know there's this whole thing going on with Brett Yormark versus Cody Campbell right now from Texas Tech because they put some Tech games on a Friday, and Cody Campbell is not happy about that at all. I don't want to have those Saturdays taken away from us, but I think Black Friday is a different one because most people have the day off anyways. And I think if there's a Utah football game in town, as there's going to be in Salt Lake City, I think people will be excited about that. I think this could be something really fun, Alma. What do you make of it?
I think they could be a fun game. Like, again, even though there's not going to be a lot of implications for the conference title with this game.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the third straight year that Utah is going to be playing on Black Friday. Like we already mentioned, they played Kansas last year and then UCF the year before.
Yeah.
It's even the fourth time that they've played on Black Friday since 2020. But West Virginia, they have pretty much been a bad team, or I guess below 500 ever since the COVID season. Like the only time that they have been above 500 was in 2023. And when you look at their final games of that season, that was the last time that they won their final game of the year. So I think that if you want to follow trends, things are looking more in Utah's favor. But with how college football is nowadays, you can go from being 1-11 to being 11-1 because of how many transfers you get over there. So overall, I think that this shouldn't be a worrisome game by any means, but if you want to go out at midnight, push a couple people over for a flat screen TV, get some rest, and wake up at noon for some football, I think this is a good game to be able to watch.
Yeah, and I should mention when I said noon ET, that actually would be because that'd be 10 a.m. Utah time. So I don't know maybe if they would throw it at noon at us because it's in Utah, but that does.
I mean, that's what happened with Kansas.
Yeah, but that was at the Jayhawks. I think that was the difference, right? It did happen with Tech, but that was such a big game. That's why I was good with it. And everyone was up anyways from game day, so that's where I thought it was still an epic atmosphere.
I think final game, why not? Make it a noon Eastern, so then we can get the Eastern viewership.
Hey, whatever it takes, because especially if this Utah team is where I think they have a chance to be, still fighting for a Big 12 championship game by the time that rolls around, I'd love all eyes to be on the Utah Utes. There was an interesting recruiting comment made, and recruiting can be a wild thing, but this one in particular really caught my attention. We're going to talk about it here in a second. This episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year is getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now is in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in a meeting and seeing a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you, and you can book your appointment with TurboTax today. Recruiting is a wild game because some guys, they're nailed as 5 stars and they're everything they were supposed to be and more. A la Trevor Lawrence, who started right away for Clemson, won them a title, and got them to the playoff 3 consecutive years in a row. Other 5 stars fizzle out. There's also the Devin Lloyds and the Brant Keithys of the world who flew under everyone's recruiting radar. So it can be hard to know, hey, how do you find the diamonds in the rough? Like, which of the top guys actually have the right stuff to make it and succeed? Like, these are all challenging things that teams face. And teams do different things to try and determine who these elite guys are going to be. Oregon's quarterback coach, I'm just going to say Koa because I probably butchered his last name, so I apologize to him. Evaluates recruits with a simple question. We talk about his quarterbacks: chocolate or vanilla ice cream. Any hesitation, and the coach doesn't want him. If you pause on ice cream, what are you going to do on third down in front of 110,000 fans? I get what he's going for here. Just like you have to be able to make quick decisions, but at the same time, this is where I feel like some of the recruiting stuff we take it a little too far, Alma. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's also been some crazier things that coaches have personally done, even though personally, I'm going to go vanilla. We're going to be plain here, but
vanilla for your favorite player. Favorite player. Okay,
because you can put a lot of combinations in there, a lot of audibles you can throw in there. Where with chocolate, it can throw some things off, in my opinion, at least. People can I give you that one. But I mean, like, there's been some coaches. I believe it was Arkansas coach. He mentioned that he ate possum stew in order to recruit a specific player. Then there were coaches that were recruiting players' cats because they wanted the entire family to be involved with their program. Then the mom factor, winning over the player's mom, so then they can say that, hey, your mom loves this place so much, you should love this place too. So even though it's a very strange way to approach things, you could also ask the same question: how do you put your shoes on? Sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or do you go sock, shoe, sock, shoe? You can answer these questions, and that can change the entire opinion of somebody. But you know what? If that's how he's going to look at his program, I don't argue with his reason. Because if you're going to have the pressure of playing a game with Oregon, think about how big of a program that is. You're going to have so many eyes on you. So not only that pressure, but now the pressure of third and long in potentially a game-stealing situation. You don't want to have any sort of hesitation with your quarterback. So if you can ask that question, he's like, yeah, vanilla. Cool. What toppings do you want? M&M's. Cool. That lets you know that you are going to have a guy that is going to be calm and ready, even though it might be in the simplest view. Maybe that can translate onto the field. No, I'm not going to argue against it.
Yeah, like I said, to me, it goes just too far because I feel like, and it's different for every position, as you made a good point too. Like for quarterbacks, I understand why he wants at that level, but also at the same time, like some quarterbacks, their strong suit might not be giving you the quickest answer on the spot, but if they know the route, like when it comes to a football game, right? Like you know that stuff inside and out, then you're going to be able to recite it there versus the random question of it. But also, this is just the kind of stuff when I see quotes and things like this, like make me so thankful to have a guy like a Morgan Scalley. And yeah, maybe Morgan Scalley has a specific recruiting thing he does that'll scratch a guy off if he doesn't. But every person, every player, the way they've gotten to this point is a different story. And I think that each recruit has to be identified and evaluated with certain checkpoints into meet, but with a different criteria. And I trust Morgan Scalley Morgan Scalley is one of the reasons we had the last football dynasty, maybe dynasty strong, but Utah going back to back, being a consistent top 15 team. That doesn't happen without Morgan Scalley's recruiting. I trust him leading this Utah football program so much, not just by what he said, but the types of players that he's helped Utah at. He feels like the right guy to help run and steer the ship too. And the only thing that'll be interesting, Alma, is how does this all change in the NIL era now too? Because things are very different, as we know, right?
Yeah, NIL is going to change every little thing, but hey, just keep a couple of those stranger questions in your back pocket, and you'll be able to weed out the players that you don't want on your team, and you'll bring in the guys that will let you know if they like chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be fun just to see who the next Utah football recruit stars are. Utah getting Davis Andrews, the local guy from American Fork, went on his mission for a couple of years. He's coming back up. I think he's going to be a special type of player for this Utah football team. There's another guy, Mekhi Halu. When he was at Stansbury High School, he was an electric running back. They're going to have him go to linebacker. Redshirted last year. We'll see if we hear any more from him this year. Cyrus Polu is a young guy I'm excited to see step up. We talked about a couple of these guys earlier when we were just kind of talking some different things at Spring Ball Alma, but is there a guy kind of right now off the radar that you're excited to get to see more of? I think mine, as I mentioned, would be a guy like Andrews. Is there someone that you're intrigued to get more news about here?
I will say I'll probably have to dive in a little bit more because, again, spring ball is still so fresh for me.
That's true.
But with the coaching staff, I solely trust everything that they are doing. They have proven time and time again, these guys that aren't on your radar, they should be the ones you're game planning for. So whatever they decide, I am fully on board, and we're going to see a Scalley finally taking those reins and seeing what his blueprint of Utah football truly is.
It's going to be electric once we finally get to that first game. Just like it's always electric when you join me on the show, Alma. Thank you so much for making the time. Please let everyone know where they can find more of you and your work at.
So after a long, lengthy, troublesome route to try and get X back, we are finally back on there. If you want to follow me, follow my content. It is at Bean on the Scene 1, where you can catch any content about the Utah Jazz, Utah Mammoth, or any Utah local sports. Or if you want to see more photos and videos, you can follow me on Instagram at AlmaBean23.
Awesome. Thanks again, Alma.
No problem. Thank you, JT.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Utes. More spring ball news coming your way the rest of the week on Locked On Utes. A reminder, if you're in this market for a second listen every day, Locked On College Football, Locked On Big 12 have you covered. And we'll see you back on Locked On Utes tomorrow. Don't forget the Supercast, the Locked On Utes Supercast is available to join today. We'll see you in the Everydayer Club.